So one thing off the bat that I want to say is that most of these are pretty good. I'll tell you when we get into the good ones, but here we go. We're going to rank all the PCs from worst to best. Starting off with the worst, it's Aerostys. I feel like most people don't even know that this character exists, but it was Henri's character at the beginning of Easy Company, when it was two people fused together. And they were there for like 3 sessions, and then Henri decided to do something else. And that something else was Kuta. But before then, there were this half-elf Aerostys fighter character, and nothing ever happened of it. It was lame, and it's the worst. And I feel like that's not controversial. This next one might be. Number 2 is Eramor. Now, I love Eramor. Eramor is great, but Andrew was still new to the game, kind of joined in the campaign near the end there, and he kind of is just a barbarian. He has a Russian accent, which is great, but there's no real story with Eramor. No offense, and I feel like Andrew himself, Andrew, you would probably agree, like you're still figuring this stuff out. And I feel like there's better characters. Sorry, Eramor. Number 3, Arzis. So Arzis is also from Misfits 2. Arzis is an evil paladin that is played by Henri Hatch. God bless him. Arzis he's evil. He's a villain. He is a sworn ill rigger of some demon lord. But also Henri wasn't really like picking up some of the stuff that Garrett was doing, which is fine. That whole campaign is a bit of a mess, and I blame myself for some of it. But Henri has gone on the record to say like he doesn't like this character. He kind of wants to forget this character has ever existed. It's fine. The reason why I'm putting Arzis above Eramor is literally just because Arzis was in that campaign longer than Eramor. And I remember there were more opportunities for Arzis to do things than Eramor. I felt like if Eramor was there since the beginning, Eramor would be higher. But since he was a late addition, Arzis is here. Sorry, gang. Here we go. Number 4 is this one's a bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to put Calypso Caddel here. Calypso Caddel is a great idea, but Henri got married. So she was there for a couple sessions and then disappeared. Had a cool little mini arc that you guys finished. You went on to a quest to get the Holy Grail, and it worked. She got her youth restored, all that stuff, but that never met its full completion, and the party ended up finishing her plot line for her by killing Ivy, fixing all that stuff. She did come back for a session or 2 and then left. Yeah, a little weird, but that's where I'm putting Calypso Caddel. Yeah. Okay. For number 5, we have Eris. And for the people who know about Eris, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. This was played by Garrett Brock. When Decival was out finding himself, Garrett Brock played Eris for about 5 sessions, a human sorcerer who was basically like a newborn morally. And he has the famous line, "Are you a great scholar? Are you a great scholar?" He'd ask everyone that. He was trying to figure out what good and evil was, and he wanted to experience them both, which ended up bringing him into conflict with the rest of the party and him dying. So I kind of like this character. It was a fun gimmick while it lasted. I enjoyed when Eris was here. I'm kind of glad that he didn't stay around, because he definitely was a source of conflict, which I think was good. But I think Eris is a better character when it's short and sweet like this. And it definitely was just sort of an interim for Decival to do other things. And I feel like his kind of lack of impact on the rest of the narrative kind of shows. Okay, the end of I think that's the end of the bad characters. I feel like 1 through 5 are the characters that I think everyone objectively agrees is bad, and it's bad because they're half-baked. They either didn't have enough time, it was brand new, the player was busy, whatever. Here we go into actual characters that I enjoy, and for number 6 it's going to be Felix. So Felix is this low mainly because Felix showed up at the end of the campaign for Easy Company. When he was in the campaign, he was really good. In fact, Felix, I think, might have one of my favorite epilogues of all of it, where he gets on a ship with Winterfereth and they're flying around to different worlds. That's fantastic. I love that sort of symmetry, even though Felix was technically there from the beginning because he was the ship. The key point of conflict is what Felix is currently doing now and the artwork for Felix, which was really controversial. And me and Michael, the whole like Felix being a kid and not a kid, and the confusion there, and the fact that only Felix's artwork is him as a kid, it frustrates me, it frustrates Michael, and I feel like it's kind of tinted the I think Michael would agree, it's kind of, I've harmed this character a bit. But also I wish we had more time with Felix. I feel like he'd be a cool character. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see him again, either as a PC or NPC. But I do enjoy Felix as a character. He's a tier above everyone else below him. But I like him here. And number 7 is Rust. So I really enjoyed Rust's character being a detective, investigator, and at the very beginning of Misfits 3, he was firing on all cylinders. He and Thomas Barq figuring out the Oliver Barq murder mystery was fantastic. And he was a really compelling character with basically Thomas's dad killing Rust's family. It was really, really compelling stuff. However, since that story arc was knocked out super early on in the story, it felt like Rust was just kind of hanging around. And in a campaign that was a lot about like political intrigue and higher court, Rust didn't really fit in. He did become a really cool like mage knight character, which I thought was neat mechanically, but story-wise, I felt like I failed Rust a bit, and I kind of felt like, I felt like I let Rust down on this one. There was a detective, and we solved the mystery, and then there was another 30 sessions. That's tough. Number 8 is Dante. So Dante, I made Omniscient, which was awesome and cool and neat. I felt like Michael really enjoyed the progress that Dante made, but with his story sort of completed, the rest of the party kind of used Dante as like Google. And of course you would, right? Like he knows everything. But that was such a burden for Michael, where it's like, hey, Michael, you need to go Google this. And he's like, oh, really? I want to do like other things. And it's like, no, you have to go Google things. And there wasn't a lot of combat in Misfits 3. So Dante's martial arts never really came about. And, he was kind of pivotal to the end of Misfits 3, which was the messiest ending out of any of the campaigns. All you players that are listening to this, how did Misfits 3 end? Like, I know because I wrote it, but it was a really bad session for me to do that. That fell on its face. So sorry, Dante, you suffered from a bad DM. That's what I diagnose you with. And number 9 is Shrike. So Shrike was kind of suffered because Sam was in and out. And I feel like everyone in the party kind of knew that Shrike was awesome, but just the fact that Sam wasn't around enough to really do anything. The reason why he's kind of higher is because of his ending with Decival. And I do like the kind of more tragic ending where he is, convinced by Decival, whatever. It's a weird homunculus person. Is their mind wiped by Decival. So it's really unfortunate what happened to Shrike. Yeah, so I feel like Shrike was just a victim of, poor scheduling stuff. Tragic. Okay, number 10, we have Ilthuryn. So Ilthuryn is Henri Hatch's first D&D character, and Misfits 1 was crazy and hectic and a lot of fun, but Ilthuryn wasn't really a character. He did a lot though, and that's the reason why he's higher than you would probably expect. Ilthuryn did a lot. He kind of ended the world. So there's that. He became a vampire briefly. There were some fun interactions with him in Ryaiid. He was a good mirror for Ryaiid, just to kind of show how manipulative he was. And he was a good vessel for Hassan, but it really felt like Ilthuryn kind of wasn't his own character, but I felt like he was a fun character to be in, and he deserved to be in Misfits 1. At number 11, I'm going to put Borsari, Michele Borsari. So I like Borsari a lot more than Dante. The field medic point of view was really interesting, especially with him becoming a fighter in the war that they were actually in. So in Misfits 3, there was this big civil war. Almost everyone played the part of diplomats, merchants, or lords, but Michele was actually a fighter in the war, which was really neat. And I felt like Borsari was a fun component to some of the alchemy stuff that was going on in that campaign, which was cool. But since he kind of came in, I believe, he came in after Dante, and then Michele Borsari left and Dante came back, there wasn't a huge opportunity for Borsari to shine. I felt like if I were to include some of the stuff that Borsari has been doing post-campaign that Michael and I have been scheming with, he would be higher. Because I've really seen like a new dimension to his character and how he's kind of sinister. Like he's kind of messed up. If Michael wants to comment on that, he can. But Borsari is kind of a borderline villain now, which is really fun. But yeah, I would put Borsari here. For number 12, I'm going to do Alexander King. So Garrett's summoner Pokapet's character, who was a generic kind of Goku type because Garrett was getting married. There's a reoccurring theme where someone is like distracted with real life stuff and their character isn't as great. Totally get it. Totally understandable. But Alexander had a fun little dynamic of loving monsters and not wanting to kill them while being in a monster guild. That's fun. And he was kind of a one-note character, but I think we needed that. That was a good balance for that party, I believe, especially with some of the hectic stuff that was going on with the other members in the party. So I feel like Alexander King, great character, fun build, had some brilliant moments like how he went whole Thunder God mode and was throwing Daedalon through buildings and stuff. That was awesome. And some of the creative uses of Hat were spectacular and we love it. But generally, his character arc kind of came and went, and Garrett wasn't there all the time, so I'm going to put Alexander at 12. 13, let's have Emanuel from this last campaign from Reliquary. I love Emanuel. Emanuel's great. Had some good, like, kind of low stakes crime stuff. But it's just a real shame how Emanuel's character suffered because of Calypso Caddel not being present in the campaign. There could have been some really cool crime conflict between the Caddel crime family and Emanuel being the fall guy for the bishops. There could have been a cool point of conflict on how crime should be sorted and stuff like that. And I felt like for some of the stuff when it wasn't related to crime, Emanuel really struggled because, you know, he's just a guy. But he had some excellent moments, like when there was a session where everyone passed through the doors of life and death, and Emanuel was visited by Saint Esbin and saw a vision of his mother and made an about turn, changed his character. And at the end of the campaign, I felt like Sam did a great job of making Emanuel turn Starfall on its head basically like upturn the crime industry there. I thought that was really good. But when it came to some of the more like macro stuff, Emanuel didn't have a whole lot of stuff to do, but great character. Listen, I love all these guys, but I'm doing this to be divisive and annoying. 14, I got Hogar. So Hogar is played by Michael, was in and out for some of Reliquary. He was there for the first couple episodes, and there was a large gap, and he came back for the last like 15. So Hogar, there's just kind of like this dark spot, but the way that it worked out, it actually worked out quite well. I liked how Michael was interacting with the campaign a lot. Like he planted a flower at the Battle of Wargate, which was like a delightful little detail that is totally in character for Hogar, and adds to the world building. I love that sort of stuff. I also believe now he is the Baron of Virage, I believe, kind of taking on Sansa France's legacy, which was really beautiful, really well done. He and Emanuel are pretty close in my list, but I'm going to put Hogar above just a touch, because it felt like Hogar's gap made the connection between the beginning of the campaign and the end of the campaign fit better. 15, I have good old Thomas Barq. So Thomas is a great character, a drunk addict basically that finds God and makes an about turn. Love these sorts of characters. When Thomas went through the whole Rust arc, it was fantastic, solving the crime of his father being a murderer, which was a lot of fun. And he was a great segue into participating with a lot of the tarot card shenanigans with Death, the Death tarot card that he has, the Devil with Kaylee, and things like the Hanged Man with the Gallows Graves, and Strength with Raiden Marrow. It's a cool segue into a lot of that. He did definitely just become like an alchemist wizard at the end, which, you know, I don't think that's Thomas's fault. I think that's the fault of the campaign, because it's like, hey, the next 10 sessions, we're gonna be on a boat. You're like, oh great, cool. I made a cleric that wants to evangelize, and we're on a boat. Dope. So that's definitely on me, but when Barq was in his element, he was fantastic. For number 16, I have Norman Dudley. Norman was great. And the reason why I have him here is I took such joy in the amount of double takes, confusions over Norman's name, his true identity, and his interactions with the playwright. I wasn't intending to make the playwright of like an evil villainous character. I don't think he was, but he was definitely annoying. And to see Norman start off like listening to the playwright, following his demands, working with the crowd, and the end where he has in the final fight with G-Rex, where he has enough, he says like, screw this, and banishes the playwright to the prime material plane as a human. Love it, you know, chef's kiss, magnificent. And even Norman like giving up his powers and going back, just wanting a normal life and becoming a normal dude. That's a wonderful arc, and I love how Norman turned out. I don't think I have anything else to say. Norman's great, but not as great as number 17, which I'm going to have Colonel B. Marshall. Colonel was a hilarious character. Really loved the backflips, man. Love the backflips. Love the gun-toting, patriotic, racist old man. Worked really well in the campaign. Helped reveal a lot of the world building, where it showed how evil the Empire was on this sort of stuff. Colonel really had to grapple with standing for a country that was like evil, which was really compelling. And he also had some fun dynamics with some of the gods. I think one of the war gods he was falling there for a second and he walked away from the faith, which was freaking dramatic. But Colonel is a great tragic hero. He's sort of the victim of Decival's plan. And I feel like being like an old man veteran who's seen all this stuff, to have him be like hurt by what Decival does is makes Decival's character better, makes Arzis' character better. Colonel is really like the center beam for a lot of the drama of Misfits 2. And that's, I'm putting him here because he's great. Number 18, I got Hassan. So Hassan was a kid from the woods, locked up into a prison, agent of Gemda, which is an evil god, and possessed by the axiom of change, whatever that is. I know what that is, but you guys don't. And so he had weird ghost powers. He had a magnificent arsenal mechanically, but also narratively, he had this cool rivalry with Archimedes, who he had to kill twice, which was delightful. And he was a way more restrained, neutral voice within the Misfits 1 campaign, something that they desperately needed. And he had a fantastic, like, more ideology that came into conflict with a lot of things, where like everything decays, you need change, which you would think would go against, he would be on Emdo's side, because Emdo's all about chaos and secrecy, magic, right? But Hassan advocates for like meaningful change. You can't just change just because. It's like changing for a purpose. It's more evolution than randomness, right? Or more evolution than the sort of spontaneity, lol, so random that Emdo is a bit. Anyway, that's enough about Hassan. I love this character from Sam. Sam did a great job role playing this guy. Kind of had a Drax vibe to him. Excellent. Number 20, Gova Toa. Garrett is a fishman pretending to be a noble. It's great. My greatest pride and joy is how many steps he took to hide this from the rest of the players. And the other players didn't know for a long time. Like, they didn't know that Jamie was killed, right? I think Rust kind of knew, like, oh, wait, this didn't kill him. He was definitely murdered. This isn't a suicide. And eventually people found out, and he became more open with his secret for everyone else, and they were very sympathetic to it. But a lot of Gova Toa's plans were between me and Garrett. A lot of his plans were trapped in the DMs, and he did it, but none of the other players really got to see it. So an excellent schemer, an excellent plotter, a great character of like rags to riches. He literally went from slavery to now being the king of a continent, which is great. But super morally gray. He kind of has light Yagami vibes, just a bit, where it's like, I was wronged, this is wrong, and I'm going to fix it, but using questionable methods, which is a compelling character, and which is why he's number 20, because he's cool. Lamia Caedos. Lady Caedos is very close to Gova Toa, but I'm going to put her a little bit above, because not only does she have this sort of hidden identity that Gova Toa had, pretending to be a man, but she also had a fantastic dynamic. She had a kill list. She had a clear set of goals of people to murder, had a kind of vengeance plot to it. And it's one of Henri's better characters. Henri saw Ilthuryn and went, listen, I could do Ilthuryn better. Like, we can do better than Ilthuryn. And that's what Lamia is. Lamia is a better Ilthuryn. And I just I'm giving bonus points for Henri for taking an old character design and improving it. Really, really improving it and stepping up. She had some fantastic interactions with Rust and the magic system therein. Lamia's duplicant is a genuine spell that Henri like coded out, wrote a circle for, all that stuff, and it is now in the game. And that's really cool and helpful. And now that campaign is over, she has such a fascinating place in the world as a character out there. And she just has such a force of personality that we respect. So way to go, Lamia. 22. We got Endris. Endris was a fantastic addition and a good call from the very beginning. Where Andrew is like, oh yeah, that Leroy Jellicoe guy, who by the way is just kind of a guy in the background, right? But Leroy Jellicoe is a big deal, partially because Andrew is like, I'm going to be his old apprentice. And Endris's evolution of starting off as like I remember when he was this like local tinkerer guy who lived in like abject fear of Leroy Jellicoe. Like they would mention Leroy and he would be like, nope, I'm good. I'm trying to hide from that guy. To at the end of Easy Company being able to stand up for himself against Leroy. And now in the epilogue, actively trying to kill Leroy. It's an excellent arc. And his interactions with Sky were brilliant. I loved how he was the more academic voice for Easy Company. He was definitely the more like intellectual, analytical side, which I felt like that kind of needed, because you have people like Bones and Kuta and Felix and all this sort of like nonsense that are running around on the ship with him. So I felt like Endris played a good role in that. And I felt like he was a lot of fun to play as an NPC. These points don't count as much because it's not the player, it's the character. But Endris as the Armor Moranin and being kind of for Solomon, kind of not, having his own objectives. And I felt like it was a fun twist to be like, and the Armor Moranin is Endris, when everyone's thinking it's Leroy. Love it. Yeah. So listen, ever since when we hit Gova Toa, when we hit 20 through 30 are some of my favorite characters. I love all these people. And it's really hard to grade some of them. And honestly, I feel like anyone can make a good argument to put any of these people on number one. You guys are, I'm so impressed by y'all. And this is why I love DMing. It's because of your characters and stuff like this. Anyway, I digress. So 23 is Bones. Bones was, like I said, a real agent of chaos on Easy Company. Sam did an excellent job. I think this is one of Sam's best characters. An excellent job of role playing a character who's trying to like figure out who they are, trying to get an identity for themselves, knowing what they are for, knowing what they're against, kind of discovering themselves throughout the campaign. And after discovering themselves with the end, sacrificing himself to defeat Daedalon was a very like incredible moment. Honestly, I know we joke about like, oh yeah, like Bones died, Russ died, but it is a good conclusion for that character, that he was able to find out who he is, what he stands for, right? Because before he was totally chaotic neutral, and at the end of that, I felt like he was pretty chaotic good to neutral good, where he's realized like what he believes in and what he wants to fight for. It tugs at my heartstrings. That's the stories that I love to hear. And at the table, Bones was amazing. He made spells. He was interacting with the other characters. He was wilding off. He had jokes. There were fun interactions with him and Ajax. Bones as a character, Sam was able to interact with every other PC and basically became friends with the whole crew, which made his death all the more painful. It was great. Speaking of, nope, no, not that won't work. Actually, this might be the exact opposite of Bones. For 24, I have Solomon. So Solomon Voldric-Khan is honestly kind of the next Leroy Jellicoe, to be honest. Pursuing perfection. How does that work? He starts off as a sort of religious fanatic, thinking like, you know, his god is leading him, and then slowly realizing that it's not a god, it's just some scientist, right? But then coming full circle on it. Really compelling character. Had some really great moments. Loved he kind of has the logical side of Endris, which I really appreciate. Fun interactions between him and Seeker and the rest of the party, especially when he chucks someone off a cliff. Someone being Taka Khan. He was a interesting character, was with the party the whole time, but always felt like there was a chance that he would just like disagree and rebel. You know, there's just a moment where it's like Solomon doesn't like where this is going, doesn't find it logical, and could go rogue. So love lawful neutral. It's my favorite alignment. Definitely has some like Zeth Skybreaker stuff, if you know those books. If you know Stormlight Archives, that's kind of the same vibe. But yeah, Solomon was really compelling. Loved him a lot. And another one of Garrett's characters is Ryaiid Nailo. So the exact opposite. Ryaiid is a spoiled brat, and I love him for it. You start off, I think at the start of the campaign, he was 17, 18, born with like demonic sorcery powers, cared for at an orphanage, who basically like bent to his every whim. Ryaiid was so used to getting his way that whenever he would go out into the world, if something didn't go his way, he would destroy it. And it was such a compelling character. He wanted so much that wasn't his. Incredibly greedy, villainous, evil character. But when he came into conflict with Emdo, who is another villain, you know, antagonist, he's like, no, you don't get to rule this world. I get to rule this world. And I felt like he was the main driving force for Misfits 1. Hassan and Ilthuryn are great. I love them. They're on this list. Adore them. But Ryaiid is really what made Misfits 1 Misfits 1. And that's why I'm putting him here. So we're now at the top 5. And I don't know exactly what to say, but number 26 is Spades. So it's Spades. Elijah is such a force of nature. Spades is an actual genuine wild card. It is terrifying. What Spades does. I love his story arc and his reasons for being able to show up wherever. I love the fact how we have incorporated, or it's mostly Elijah and Garrett have incorporated Elijah's inconsistent schedule into his character, where other characters failed, where it's like, yeah, they weren't really there, they didn't have enough time. That's part of Spades' character. And if Spades doesn't know anything, we can just chalk it up to, oh, he gambled that memory away, or, you know, oh, he was talking to a different, you know, party of a different dimension, right? And he just has such an aura of mystery to him that no other character has really captured. I love Spades. I want to see more of him. We're going to see more of him. Elijah does a great job pushing this character. Even though he hasn't been in too much stuff, I think he was in Easy Company and Reliquary. And I think that's it. Or maybe it was just Reliquary. But anyway, a delightful character who I adore. Also, a delightful character that I adore is number 27, Kuta. The Ferrith Sister arc is the best session of D&D ever. And the drama and stuff that Henri wrote up for the campaign, for his backstory, was amazing. Kuta's character of being able to steal whatever he wants, he gets to have whatever he wants, but he's never satisfied by it, is so compelling. And the way that he comes full circle around on it, and gets with Autumn, settles with his party, stops stealing things, the restored thief and all that stuff is great. I think this is Henri's best character, and I feel like Henri would probably agree with that. Hopefully. But it's so compelling. Love his accent, love his mannerisms. brilliant. He's second to, only to, Seeker, which is number 28. Seeker is started off as a Skyrim parody, grew into his own character in a million different ways. I could throw almost any encounter at Seeker and Andrew would make it fun for everybody. Seeker could simultaneously play the idiot, the moron who doesn't know what's going on, who's lost and doesn't know his way, and the next minute play like the wise sage who's giving like brilliant advice. He is such a Yoda. He really is a Yoda, and that's hard to do as a PC that starts out as level 1. You know, how do you play a level 1 Yoda, right? It's like, oh, he's not intimidating, he's just a guy. But Seeker is just a guy, but he has that aura to him that made him so much fun. I love how this character is still out and about. The memes, the quotes, it's crazy. Everyone can do the voice. It's iconic. Seeker this, Seeker that. And that's why Seeker is my third favorite D&D player character. I love him. My second favorite D&D character is Decival, the melancholy man, the most controversial player character in the history of D&D. Decival was a good person who was traumatized by a cult of Emdo, killed by Leroy Jellicoe, and eventually had to sacrifice a capital of the world in order to save it. And he thought he was doing the right thing. And the ending to Misfits 2 is, you know, massively influential. It is startlingly like crazy. The stuff that Decival did, the hints to it, his spiral into insanity is well documented. The people around him were all in their own different story arcs and stuff. And we can say, oh yeah, sure, you know, Eramor wasn't that great of a character. Shrike wasn't there fully. Marshall had no idea. Arzis had no idea. But that all adds into Decival's story arc of a man who had too much power that was left alone, that went berserk, right? Went evil. And the best part is that like he totally thinks he's right. And he did kinda save the world. But I love Decival and the fact that he just wants to be left alone, and the hints that he feels guilty for what he did, but the exterior of no, this was absolutely right, is brilliant. It's a very complicated, maybe sympathetic potential future villain, potential future, you know, PC. Cool connections with Emdo, one of the biggest villains in all of D&D. I love it. Connected to Leroy Jellicoe. Decival has done so much for D&D just in general. And I think that this is Garrett's best PC. I think this is Garrett's best character. But my favorite character, what I think is the best D&D character ever played, this might shock some of you, is Saxton Hale. Saxton Hale had some of the most emotional scenes in all of D&D, in all of our sessions. He started off as a gimmick character. His name is literally from TF2. He's a big, bulky, gorilla, like half-orc brawler that has a bag of tricks, like a tavern brawler bag. And it's, oh, haha, he hits you with a stool, he hits you with whatever, right? Hilarious. The more we dug into Saxton's character, the better it got. When he sat down with, like, I think it was his ex-wife, I believe, and there was just like a really emotional scene with that really like struck a chord with the rest of the party, with Michael. It was beautifully played, of these people who, you know, genuinely care for each other, but really like fell out and aren't on good speaking terms anymore. And his son, Jameson Hale, who wants to be like his dad, but Saxton has since stepped away from that. And Saxton, you know, kind of coming back into his prime, ends up accidentally killing his son kind of shows just how far he's fallen off, and for him to sacrifice his own life to bring his son back is one of the crazy, I think actually I keep saying one of, I think it's the best character arc that we've had in D&D. And one of the reasons why it's so good is because that sacrifice is lasting. Saxon Hale has not come back, will not come back. His story began and ended, and it is beautiful. I love it. Michael did a brilliant job, and I think he's my favorite D&D character. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below or something.